The views, opinions, and representations expressed on the Night Dreams Talk Radio Network and its website are those of the hosts, guests, and participants, and are not necessarily those of or endorsed by the network, its affiliated stations and broadcasts, the management, other hosts, or advertisers of the network. The shows found on the Night Dreams Talk Radio Network can, but do not necessarily, promote any particular lifestyle, belief, religion, political affiliation, or other personal practice. These shows are for entertainment purposes only and are not intended to treat, diagnose, and or claim any cure of disease or condition or give any medical or legal advice.
You are all...
Everybody's voting for the friendly voice of radio, the people's choice. Music, weather, sports, and news, it's radio. The people choose. Everybody swinging to the swinging voice of radio, the people's choice. Big fry, small fry, dawn to dawn, it's radio that turns them on.
Coming to you from some far point station, like a cosmic tumbleweed, both north and south of the Pleiades. Here's your host, Gary Anderson.
Well, hi, everybody. Boy, that storm is so bad out there. No, anyway, that's a new intro to my show done by one of the stations. I want to thank them very much. Anyway, tonight we got a great guest. We got Michael Huntington. We're going to be talking about cryptids, UFOs, aliens, and what's going on in the UFO community right after this.
You can advertise your business on Night Dreams Talk Radio, and you will be heard worldwide. Why not contact us at nightdreamstalkradio@gmail.com.
You're listening to my friend Gary Anderson on Night Dreams Talk Radio, the best in paranormal radio.
Well, we try to be. You know what happened today? Again, Windows updated. And, well, I can tell you, I run 7 to 8 computers to do the show, and all of them are running slow. So when I go and hit a button to play a commercial or intro, I mean, I can now count to about 5 or 6 before it activates. I don't know. I don't know if anybody else is having troubles with Microsoft Windows 10, but I don't know. I still prefer Windows 7. Anyway, tonight we got Michael Huntington. He runs a Strange Travel blog, and he's on Facebook, and he's also going to be coming, I guess, out with a book. How you doing, Michael, my friend, tonight?
Yeah, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. How are you?
I am alive, and it's going on 68. I take every day precious. As long as I can find my shoes and car keys or my motorcycle keys, I'm doing great.
Well, I'm 50 now, so I'm getting up there as well. So I'm there with you. It's all about trying to find time to rest your aching bones whenever you can. You know.
Well, you know what? Even at 50, I didn't have aching bones. It didn't start until I was probably like early 60s. And then I started finding out things I used to be able to do, well, isn't comfortable doing anymore.
Yeah, you discover muscles you never knew you had at about 3 a.m. But yeah, thanks for having me.
Oh, yeah. Well, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself, and how did you come up with that name, out of curiosity? Not your name, but the name you use for your, you know.
Yeah, well, I wasn't involved with naming myself, but yeah, the Strange Travels is pretty much, the banner under which I fly. I'm not really invested in paranormal exploration, which is what I do, in documentation. I'm not really so much like on that career path or whatever, but I do have some writing projects, and I do like to share what I find with people in the UFO communities, the Bigfoot communities, and ghosts and other paranormal people out there that are interested in locations and stories and places to investigate.
Well, how long have you been doing this, Michael?
Well, I've always been interested in the subject. I was a kid in the 70s, and if you remember, the culture of the times, UFOs and ghosts and Eric von Däniken and In Search of and Close Encounters, all that stuff heavily influenced the culture. So I've been interested in these subjects pretty much, all my life. My mom would get the all the tabloid stuff each week, and they give me UFO magazines and all that. So I was hooked young, and I've pretty much stuck with it. Throughout my life, I've joined a number of different groups, like the Aerial Phenomena Research Organization and MUFON, groups like that. And I've observed UFO history and ghosts and Bigfoot. I followed all that stuff when I went to college. I actually focused, when I took philosophy of science, I actually focused on pseudoscience, so even my academic, background relates to this. But I've always been sort of the armchair sort of guy, and I guess about 5 years ago, I got into Google Maps and Google Earth, and I started just pinpointing some places I'd like to see, and started pinpointing, UFO spots and haunted houses and different things that I've always wanted to see. And that ended up becoming like a year-long project.
I bet.
GPSing everything, and it became sort of a conscious effort that, really a good way to learn about these subjects and these cases is to, study them down in detail enough to where, you can actually go to the places and stand where the people stood, and been where a Bigfoot's been and all that. And, I started mapping all that stuff out, and then I said to my wife, I think maybe we should start going to some of these spots because, we would take vacations anyway. And, I had so many places pinned out. I think I got like 500 just, pinned out places of places to go. It's about, like I said, about 4 years ago, we started traveling, and we've been to hundreds. We have traveled on average or on minimum 3,000 miles a year. And that's just taking normal vacations. Like I said, when you have a map, you start to realize that everywhere you go, no matter where you travel, if you're traveling by road or whatever city or town you're landing in, they have some sort of place or some sort of, location or some sort of folklore or story where something interesting has happened. Every town has a spook light road and a haunted house and a haunted cemetery, and somebody may have seen some sort of weird cryptid, maybe in the 30s, maybe in the 70s or whatever, but pretty much all across the country, everywhere, in every town, you could find this folklore, which some of it may be true. There's certainly something that causes people to encounter things, and there's certainly locations just by me pinning them out in such detail that are sort of anomalous areas. There's areas where there's a lot of weirdness going on, and all this stuff is researchable. You can find it, especially in the internet age, which is fantastic because people are generating content, generating their research, and there's a lot of people doing travel stuff like this. Like when I'm not the only one doing this. There's a lot of other people, Mandate, those guys, Backroads War, the legend trippers. There's a lot of people that do this sort of traveling, and it's really a good way to learn these cases and these places and to document them and kind of collect them together. Right now I'm throwing a lot of this stuff out, just on the internet, just getting it out there, just sharing it, not geared towards, necessarily making a book or whatever. But I can tell you this, that I have 6 books actually that are complete. But I have to get the formatting and do all the publishing stuff, and that's something that you really have to focus on its own. But to be honest with you, I'm too busy traveling, and writing, and I don't want to kind of get out of this. I want to, because I'm writing every day and I'm traveling every other week, and sometimes I'll travel on my own if it's too far away or if it's a school year or whatever. But mostly I travel with my wife, Diane, who's a school teacher, and my 2 boys, Robbie, who is turning 9 here, and Sammy, who just turned 7. I'm usually traveling with them. And sometimes I'll take them out to some weird spots. They've been to some cool places. Stuff that I would have loved to have gone to when I was a kid. I would have loved to have gone into Mothman Swamp, that sort of thing. So
now, what's your feeling about Mothman? We've had a lot of talk on my show the last couple of weeks about Mothman. And, it's so many reports, not just in Pennsylvania or around the Chicago area. It's all around the country. I'm getting constant reports about Mothman.
Yeah, well, flying cryptids sort of have, an interesting history. And there's a variety of flying cryptids. There's your Mothman-type creatures. There's your giant, thunderbirds. There's your Van Meter monster, flying pterodactyl type stuff, So there's a lot of different flying cryptids that, go throughout our country's history, as far as having, anomalous sightings. But, they also go back into the folklore, even the native folklore. There's a new documentary out by Small Town Monsters. My friend Seth Breedlove's company, Terror in the Skies, that sort of deals with all these, including Mothman. I think you have to look at each of the cases individually. Some are more meritorious than others. Some are probably just folklore, right? Or urban legends, tales, mythology or whatnot. Certainly there are some instances where people have seen very large things flying. What are the possibilities? It's something that's we know of that's maybe been misidentified, or it's something we don't know. Encrypted. And that's when the speculation comes in. Is it a being from another planet, an entity from another dimension, something from our mind, that's been manifested, something from another time. A demon, warning people of impending doom. You can sort of throw everything at that. You can also throw skeptical interpretations, which are just as valid. Maybe some people did see, a very large sandhill crane.
Well,
maybe some of the cases may have been that. They certainly, killed an owl, during that time period, right? So. I kind of try to look at each case individually, and certainly when you have places where things are localized and there's the media hysteria aspect to it, you sort of have to look at those cases and realize that some of the stuff may just be hysterical, but the stuff keeps happening, right? People keep seeing Mothman type things, in Chicago just in the past few years. So.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
Who knows?
One of my guests, Joe Taylor, he comes on about once a month. He's the type of person, if the museums will send bones to him and he reconstructs them and puts them together or, repairs them and puts dinosaurs together and all that stuff. He had a report, and he also has a small museum here in Texas. And he had a report back about a month ago from a friend of his that her best friend was like going to the little town. and thought she hit a person in the middle of the road.